we have to feel good as humans to continue surviving. We have to continue, having that as part of who we are. And if we can't ever feel good, well, what is worth living? I mean,
what is up, you guys? Welcome back to the #1 mental health and addiction podcast, the Hopeaholics. I am your girl, Natalie Eva Marie, and these are my boys.
I'm Chad.
Hi, I'm Shane.
Make sure you guys like, subscribe, and follow us on our socials and wherever you get your podcasts.
Got a new episode dropping every Monday and Thursday. Please come check it out.
This episode is brought to you by the Infinity Group. You guys, if you or a loved one is suffering, please call us today. The number is right here on the screen. We are here for you 24/7. Now, let's get into the episode.
Hi, Kourtney. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Wow. Really nice to have you in.
Thank you.
Now, is she a doctor?
Mm-mm.
Okay, so I don't know why I was going
Okay.
Dr. Kourtney. Oh, we had. That's a different lady. A Dr.
Different
Kourtney.
doctor.
My mind. I was
Yeah.
going. Okay, I'm back.
I'm sure she could be a doctor
I'm back.
now,
I'm back.
Definitely not. More lived experience.
Yeah,
than anything.
exactly.
Yeah.
All the trials and tribulations.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So,
Should we dive in?
yes.
Okay. Normally we try to a little bit ease our way into it, but
I was just gonna start, but you go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Kourtney, I'm wondering. So I read about a little bit about you. Your husband and you are both in recovery.
Mm-mm. No.
Oh.
So just my husband.
Just
He's
your
in
husband.
recovery. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
You're if I'm correct,
Okay, yeah.
you're basically, I'm excited to talk to you because you're on the other end of the spectrum. So you are the loved one of someone that has the disease like myself. So like, for instance, you are my husband because you're a normie.
Mm-hmm. I am.
Yep. And so is my husband. And so I really think like I'm excited for this podcast because there are so many people that are directly affected by the chaos. I'm speaking just of myself.
Yeah.
That we cause a lot of destruction to our loved ones, whether it's spouses, family members, siblings, etc. That they have so much that they need to unpack as well from dealing with that individual that they don't get to speak, or they don't have, like, I have a 12-step program that I can go to. And I know that there's like Al-Anon and things of that nature for individuals, but it's not really spoken about as much as getting somebody into treatment, right? But not the after effects of what it does to that individual, because you guys are you have to deal with a lot of resentment, a lot of misunderstanding as well, because I know a lot of people have this misconception. Like my husband's brain doesn't compute. Like, if you have bad things happening from a direct result of doing XYZ, meaning drinking or using, then just stop. So if it was that easy, then I would have. To him, it makes sense. Like, he doesn't compute and understand how stop doing this because you get bad consequences from it, you know?
Yeah.
So that's why I'm excited to have you on, because you get to speak on such a heavy topic from the other point of view, from the other person's perspective. How long have you and your husband been together?
A little over 10 years we've been together. And then we've been married for almost 8.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So we've been together, I mean, not forever, but we've been together a while.
Solid time.
Yeah. And you're right. When we were driving in here, I have like total imposter syndrome. As I come in, I'm like, who am I? And that's kind of the point. I'm not saying this in a self-deprecating way at all. I'm nothing special. I'm just like hundreds of millions of people out there, right? Mm-hmm. But that's kind of the point,
100%.
is that we don't hear about those hundreds of millions of people that are out there. And I want them to have a voice. Mm-hmm. I want them to know that they're not alone.
Yes.
And I put together a video, which I am not a camera person at all. It's not something that I'm comfortable with. It's not something that I've done before, but I put together a video and I put it on social media a little over a month ago. And I did it because I think loved ones need to know that they have a separate story, and they have their own story.
For sure.
They have their own recovery. So actually, when you said, you're both in recovery, in a way we are, because I do think of myself as being in recovery. It's just a different kind of recovery. I do have to work a program. I do have to make sure that I'm changing the ways that are natural to me,
Sure.
but are not helpful in this disease. Like,
For sure.
break down those biases.
How did you come to that point of realization that you also need your own type of recovery, as well as like obviously it's completely different than your husband from being did you know that he was an addict or alcoholic going into your marriage?
No. And honestly, I mean, I can look back 1,000 times and say, I should have seen it here and I should have seen it there. But I really didn't accept it or allow myself to see it until I had to. And it smacked me in the face. And I was like, okay. And frankly, it was actually him saying it to a nurse. Then she repeated it to me, and I was like, holy crap, okay, this is something we can't ignore anymore, and we have to do something about. And it took me, you know, we're Irish, so, you know, all of us Irish, the jokes are real for the most part, right? And so my mom comes from a background of alcoholics, and her mother died at the age of 35 from liver cirrhosis. And her father struggled with it as well. Thankfully, he was in recovery when he did finally pass away. So I came from it from all of her anger perspective. Like, she hated this disease. It destroyed her family. It killed her mother. She had so much hate. And she passed that along to me, not in the way that I was hateful of it, but I was like, we should just hate this. This is a terrible thing, and hate it and just completely steer away from it. And so that's the perspective I took when Buddy said, I have a problem and I do need help. My immediate instinct was, all right, we're gonna fight it. Like, we're gonna fight this together. This is a disease. I get that. I didn't get that, but I get that. And we're gonna fight this. And it really took until I hit like what I would consider my rock bottom of like, I don't know what to do. I don't know who to call. I don't know what to read. I don't know how to fight. I realized that in this, like, we're going to fight this, it was Buddy and I fighting each other. Yeah. So what room did he have to fight the disease? So to your question, it took me to hit rock bottom to realize I'm fighting my husband, and my husband is not able to fight the disease as long as he's fighting me.
Wow. I mean, for you to have that much self-awareness on such a... How long were you guys into your marriage when everything kind of came to a full front of this realization, your husband has a problem and this is where we're at? So
for us, things went... I say things went downhill really quickly. That's not true. He'd been battling this for a long time. Sure. For me, things went, very quickly into like the second or third quarter of 2022. So it hasn't been, all that long since it's smacked me in the face and I had to figure out what was next from there.
And then did he go into treatment, or what made you come to the realization, like, I need some type of help too?
Yeah. Oh, wow. So he did go into treatment in December of 22. And when he was in treatment, I thought he was going to go for 30 days and he was going to go home fixed. Like, he's good. He's sober, and sober means that's great. Little did I know that sobriety is not recovery. And it took me a while to actually understand that. And then there's a big difference between the two. But, when he was there, it was also still during kind of COVID lockdown time. So there wasn't a lot. There was one meeting for loved ones, and that was it. And in this meeting, they're like, this is a biopsychosocial spiritual disease. And I'm like, way over my head. I know and understand none of these words. But when I realized the difference is that on that call, there was another wife that was on there. And we were introducing ourselves, I'm Kourtney and all that, like, this is my hobby. And I'm like, I have no idea what my hobby is. Like, can you just tell me about this and we'll continue forward. But what it was tell me about the things that you enjoy doing, things that give you joy. And we were going around the virtual room and everyone's like, there's nothing. Like, it was like crickets and pulling it out of us. There was one wife on the call, and she's like, I like doing this, 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 and this. And the moderator was like, are you in recovery? She said, yeah, I am. She was the only one that knew anything about herself. And I was like, I sit in this boat of not knowing anything about myself. I'm completely wrapped around his disease and what he's doing. And she's now a wife, and she's focused on these things that make her amazing.
He swallowed
survive.
her up.
Yeah.
So the addict
Yeah,
typically swallows up the
because
loved
the
one.
addict is such a selfish individual
Yeah.
that they consume
Everything.
the other person or
Completely.
people that are around them.
Yeah.
All of their time,
Wow.
all of their energy is consumed on trying to make this person better, trying to put forth the energy for them to get well,
Yeah.
that they completely lose their own individual
Yeah.
self.
It's amazing.
And then all of a sudden they're left really
Lost.
empty
Yeah,
and
it's
lost
amazing.
and alone.
Yeah, and it takes a long time to figure
For
out,
sure.
what is your voice anymore, and
Yeah.
who are you, and who are you as a couple, and a long time I say a long time, it's all relative anyway, but for me to separate that my husband himself, he is not selfish. He's wonderful. He's amazing, and I love him desperately, but when his disease
For sure.
reoccurs or relapses, that's when that selfishness comes in. And so separating my husband from his disease, because that's what really allows us to, be together as a couple and,
Sure.
and to fight like any other disease. This is the one disease out there that people have to sit there and fight without their families, because we're often like, I can't do it anymore.
Totally.
I don't know how to fix you. I don't know how to help you. I have to step away and you have to do it yourself.
And that's so powerful, you saying that, because it's true. The individual themselves, they have to want to get well themselves and do the work themselves. You can't do it for him.
No.
And that's a hard thing and a hard pill to swallow as well, because it's really difficult that's why the whole Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, like, that's who I am, because you're two different people. Like you just mentioned your husband, that's why you married the man, and then you have a beautiful child. Like, that's the man that you fell in love with. But then when that disease creeps in, it's like, who is this individual? Because then it turns into somebody that you do not recognize. And that's when the selfish things come in and kind of destruction. When you went to the Zoom meeting for loved ones and you heard that one wife speak the way that she did, then what happened from there? Like, did that spark something in you all of a sudden, being like, oh, I need to do something more in depth for myself?
I wish it were that easy. I was addicted to my addict. I was completely consumed in him, and I wish it were that first 30 days, and
Sure.
I was like, oh, I gotta focus on myself. But at that point in time, I keep hearing, you have to talk about, self-love and self-care. And I'm like, what are you talking about, self-love and self-care? Like, I am worried that my husband's going to die. Mm-hmm. I can't go to Starbucks with my daughter to grab coffee without this, this ache in my heart of what will happen. I'm trying to control him, trying to control his disease. I don't know what you were talking about with self-care, let alone things that I enjoy doing. I enjoy sleeping because I'm not thinking about addiction at that point in time.
Yeah.
But there was something that's made, I think, all the difference in our family, and all the difference in that turning point for me is we joined this there's a recovery community in Denver.
Okay.
It's called Free Recovery Community, and it's for addicts, loved ones of addicts, and spiritual refugees. And I remember it very specifically. We walked in, Buddy and I, together on November 11th of 23. Mm-hmm. And the pastor was just starting a new series, and it was called Gratitude and Recovery. And the way he started his message was he asked us all, if we're comfortable, to close our eyes and to picture all of those times where you were missing out on something, not because you weren't physically present, but because your mind was somewhere else. Mm. And then he said, because whether it was because you were in active addiction or because somewhere down the road you became addicted to your addict. And he continued his message, and it was a beautiful message. And at the end, we were, Buddy and I were driving home, and I realized we have a common language all of a sudden. We have this place where he could speak to both of us differently. We have both different experiences, but now there's a common language that we can talk about, that we can get on the same page. And it was a complete turning point for us to be able to say, we have this place to go where we are both equally accepted and loved, and we both get something from it, because loved ones don't have a whole lot of that. Mm-hmm. There is Al-Anon, it's wonderful. There is craft, that's wonderful for some people. Neither of them work for me in themselves, but it is nice to have a place where you feel accepted as a loved one of an addict, and you don't have to hide it. You don't have to lie for them. You don't have to feel ashamed. Totally. You can stand next to your loved one, say, I'm a proud wife of an alcoholic, and I'm a proud wife of an alcoholic.
Oh my goodness. I mean, I love this so much because I feel it's really one of those things, like you said, there's not a lot of places for the loved ones to attend or go to. And that's why for us, like doing our Recover Out Loud meeting once a week is really important, because it's for everyone, regardless of if you're an addict or not. Because I think sometimes people have a lot of resentment towards the individual or the addict themselves, because they don't understand that it is a disease.
Yeah.
And it's hard to understand how a person can be so destructive one day and then the other completely opposite. And so it's important to be able, and it does something neurologically to your brain when you're able to come, and we do ours on Zoom. So when you're able to come to a forum and not only hear other people's stories that you're like, oh my gosh, that happened to me too, or you have the space where you don't feel ashamed or guilty or look like you're gonna be, all of a sudden people are gonna look at you crazy, and you can express what you're going through at that specific moment, regardless if you are the addict or not. Because we have people that are in that meeting, they've lost their children from the fentanyl crisis that's going on, or they are struggling with something else that is hindering them. And it's important for people to know that they can speak loudly about that, because there's other people that are suffering as well. And it's important.
That's the most, I have found is the most beautiful thing. The community, the recovery community is the most accepting, the most diverse, the most beautiful community that I've ever been. I'm so thankful to be a part of it, because you can walk into a room and know absolutely nobody, but you have this one thing in common. You know, you've all been through the ringer. You know that it's all been crappy. It's okay to talk about it. You don't have to. But they know it, and it's not that awkward. I was talking to a friend earlier this morning, and he's like, you know, I was golfing with this person, and this individual's wife is in active addiction. And often when people say that, it's like, ugh,
Right.
how do you respond to that? But when you're in a recovery community, it's like, that sucks. Yeah. Like, how are you doing? Are you working your program? Do you need anything? And they'll like just completely wrap their arms around you if you let them.
For sure. And if you can be open and honest.
It's tough.
It is.
It's tough. It's almost like you got to be a hopeless romantic, you know, in a sense, because you're putting yourself out there. Not sure. I mean, I agree it's a disease. Don't get me wrong, but you know what I mean? It's still a little different.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I
It's
get
still
what
a
you're
little
saying.
different.
I get what you're saying.
You know?
Yeah,
and
very.
it's a lot of work for her to have to do on her end as well, to be safe, mentally sound, and progressing in her own life.
I totally agree.
It's a lot of work on her end. And
But
a lot of people want to just throw in the towel and say, you know what? I don't know about this.
No, for sure. But you know what I look at it? I look at it like where, you know how we always kind of shoot the shit and bullshit on how I feel like any person out there, regardless if you're an addict or not, would benefit highly from the 12 steps or doing some type of work that requires you to internally look at
100%.
yourself.
You're right.
And that is what I believe, because you're speaking across from me and I'm the opposite of you, but we speak the same language, because what's coming out of your mouth is like, yeah, that's a program. That's she's speaking program. But like, that's why it's funny to me in the sense of you turn something that could essentially either ruin your marriage where you guys end up in a divorce or your husband dies.
Yeah.
That's where this disease goes, or he ends up in a mental institution or in behind bars. Like that, there's no other option.
No.
That's just the plain.
That's the truth.
That's just the truth.
Yeah.
However, instead of you being so consumed with what ifs or all of those things, because those are really easy to kind of, you know, the brain likes to play jokes on us and tricks on us. You're able to then work on yourself through the recovery program and process. And that's why you guys are able to come back together and have a solid foundation.
They're both working.
For sure.
Yeah, you have to.
And it's hard because you're right. What you just said is it's hard for the individual to go into that realm of like, okay, I need a program myself, instead of being so entrenched and infatuated and addicted to their loved one.
But no, I agree with what you're saying though. Everyone needs a program. Everyone needs a program.
Yeah.
Everybody.
And it can look completely different. I'm not talking about it has to be 12 steps.
We push this all the time.
I know.
Everyone needs a program, whether you're an alcoholic or a drug addict or not. It doesn't matter. Everybody needs a program in their life, and that exercise, good eating habits, good sleep patterns.
God.
These
to your understanding,
those
so
four
whatever
things,
that may be.
That's your program. That's a program right there.
I totally agree. It really does.
So I agree with what you're saying. The thing is,
how did she get there?
Exactly.
That's the thing. Is like, how did
not
she
being
get
consumed with what's he doing right this fuck?
Right.
What's he doing right this second?
Yes.
Is he drinking? Is he using?
Or
is
also
he doing something
too,
bad? Like, where is he? What's he doing? Like, should I track him? Shouldn't I track him?
And how did she find this? Like,
peace.
for people that are listening that are you, right?
Yeah.
I want them to know, how did you find this recovery? Was it you said a church, right?
It's a community.
Okay. So how did you find this community, first off? And then two, did it just take you to hitting your personal rock bottom to log into the family meeting on Zoom?
So word of mouth is how we found the recovery community. My husband was in an IOP at the time, and they were, asking him to go to different meetings. And so there was an individual there that invited him to one and said, "Hey, I'm going to go to this service, afterwards on Saturday. Do you want to come?" And, so that's kind of how that's how we found it. But, frankly, where I started, we went there, I had an understanding, and I said, okay, I need to learn more about it. And all of the different various aspects of it, but I was like, it's so complicated. It's such a complicated disease. I had to find a place to start, a place where my brain could comprehend what is happening and be able to go from there, and then accept, having faith in it and accept so many different pieces. And I had to start in the brain science. I had to start understanding, what does this disease and what does this, substances actually do to the brain? We hear about, pleasure centers, and you have, but, and if I'm totally going to go on a soapbox for a moment, I hope that's okay.
Do it.
But there's there's this bias, and I had definitely had it too, of like, okay, so the pleasure center, like, okay, so you just like to feel good all the time, like, figure it out. We don't all get to feel good all the time. But no, that's actually not what it is. So the addiction lives in a specific part of the brain, and it lives in the part of the brain where, the pleasure center. But you know what else lives in that part of the brain is our survival behaviors: breathing, eating, run away from danger. There's a reason why if you're outside and it's really hot and then you come back in and you have something, really nice cold drink, it feels good. Your brain is releasing dopamine, so we continue survival. And we all have that center. We all have to feel it. Well, when you utilize a substance and those genes are activated, your brain releases between 2 and 10 times the amount of dopamine as a natural reward. That's why it feels so good. And your brain is then reset. That's why, at least my understanding is, that's why there's always chasing that first high. It's the first time your brain has received that much dopamine, and it's reset. And we have to feel good as humans to continue surviving. We have to continue, having that. That's part of who we are. And if we can't ever feel good, well, what is worth living? Why is life worth living? I can see how that path goes so quickly down to the, like, well, I have to have this or I can't survive, or I can't feel good and I have to feel good. I can finally start to understand that in my brain. I'm like, oh, brain science. Okay, I get this. And so that's where I started to kind of understand it. But then I'm a reader. I think that's the first thing I would say for any loved one. If you want to start down this path towards really supporting and being a team with your individual that has a use disorder, is learn. Just start. And if you think you've learned enough, you haven't. There's too much to be able to learn. But I was given this book, and it was talking about addictive thinking, and it's short, it's like this big. Yeah. And I'm sitting there reading it, and I'm like, yeah, it's totally my husband. That's him. That is exactly what he does. And you get to close to the end of it, and it says, And addictive thinking lives to a greater or lesser extent with loved ones as well. And I was like, oh shit, that's me. I do that. That's completely what I do. There's a reason why when we walk away from some kind of a, an argument or a fight about it, I'm like, who is this person that just talked to your husband that way? Who I don't even recognize myself, because my brain is doing something similar to what his is. Until I realize that I can't do anything, anything to help him, because I can't even help myself.
I mean, I'm like fascinated with the fact, because it takes a really self-aware individual to come to that conclusion in the midst of the journey of trying to get things situated and figured out for your loved one, because obviously like he had to go into treatment, and then so you're dealing with that, you guys have a child, so you're consumed with a lot of things. Life is going on, life is like full on just happening. But I do like the fact that knowledge is power, so picking up multiple books by different people, but different doctors, different individuals, because there's a ton out there. And so it's like just consuming as much as you possibly can, so that you can have some type of grasp. Where what I hate so much is sometimes, for instance, I'll speak on my parents, where it has nothing to do with them. Like I never want them to feel like it's their fault, that because my parents are everything to me, and nothing that they ever did as like me being a child or my brothers or anything like that had any type of correlation to me becoming an addict,
Right.
Because it doesn't fall on them. But having the knowledge and understanding of the disease in its entirely is really important for people to sit with, being okay that it's not their fault. It's not their fault. Like, it's not their fault. And it's okay to feel upset and rage and disappointed and resentful. And then now it's like going into the part, what is the solution for me? What do I do to get the relief? What do I do to get that dopamine hit? Because right now I'm only getting it when I get to basically yell at this individual and tell them they're fucking crazy, and they're literally ruining mine and our life together. That's the dopamine release, because it's like you're able to express these emotions that are pent up inside you, and rightfully so. But you'll never get, it's just like chasing a drug. So it's very interesting for me, especially for you guys starting this journey, that you were able to be so self-aware so soon, and then realizing that like you have to work on yourself.
Well, I'm a saint for sure. I mean, and I definitely have faults. I'm not going to say that I started it
Of
out
course.
of completely selfish reasons. Like, I was tired of feeling helpless.
Yeah.
I got to figure out a way to stop feeling helpless, and that's part of it. And I definitely mess up every single day, and do wrong things I mean, we're
humans.
We're human.
That's what we do. Like we're never going to be perfect by any means, but now at least you have some type of relief. And that's really what it comes down to, is like we always talk about how people are always chasing like being happy. It's like happiness is an emotion, and that's great, but it's fleeting, and it comes and it goes. It's what I think that what all of us humans are searching for is peace of mind, is to have just being okay.
Yeah.
And being okay with yourself is really where that whole, where it really stems from.
And that being okay is okay. I'm totally guilty of this. Like, you ask somebody how they're doing, they're like, okay. And you're like, just okay? Yeah, man, just okay is good enough. I'm good with being okay. Like, there's a sense of peace and calm there that living in chaos does not give you. And addiction is chaos.
Oh my gosh, it's completely. It's like a tornado.
I'm thinking it's nice. It's always difficult to take the high road. And when you're beat up, time after time after time, to take the high road, like you have to do, or
for sure
the non-addict has to do, because the addict is incapable when they're in their use or having that time,
or not in recovery, like you said, because that is a huge.
They're not capable of taking the high road and coming
ever,
or even slipping that note under the door saying, "I'm sorry."
Totally.
It takes someone else to share that olive branch. It's a continuous battle. So good for you.
But just as within, and I'm going to say the program totally wrong, but that you have to release that you can do it yourself, right? There is something higher that
Sure.
that has to help. With loved ones, I think there's this aspect of you can't do that by yourself either.
No.
So stop trying.
No.
And I think so. Learning is the first part, but the second part is community. You have to have
You have
a
to.
community.
You have to.
Yeah.
It's imperative. And I'll tell you something. I was at the zoo the other day, and I'm going to repeat it again
Yeah.
for the next month. But rhinos.
Yeah.
There's just not a mother and a father and a baby. The rhino baby does not survive without a community. You need 3 to 5 females helping that mother take care of that kid. And that's just how life is. And it's the same for us. It takes a whole family to raise a child.
Yep.
And that child gets older, becomes a husband, becomes a wife. It takes a whole family to keep them secure as well. And it's not easy being a father. It's not easy being a husband. It's not easy being a mother or a spouse or a wife or a provider or both providers. And the daughter or the son is at home. Life is tough.
And I think that it's not a weak person that asks for help.
No.
It's a strong person that asks for help.
Yeah.
That is literally why I feel, it is so important to break that stigma, because to me, and I used to think that myself.
Yeah.
So I used to think, and that's why I didn't want to get help initially too, is because I'm like, I'm strong. I'm not weak. But then obviously, thank God it worked out for me, where now talking to individuals like yourself, it's like, no. Weak is staying in pain and doing nothing about it and continuing the destruction and the damage to not only yourself, but your loved ones that you supposedly love. Getting the actual help that you need and then working on yourself consistently, because like you said perfectly, is that we're not perfect. We're going to make mistakes. We're going to, it's a continuous battle, like Shane, you were saying, because it is. And you have to stay on top of it rigorously, because shit creeps back in. But that, to me, that shows strength. That shows courage. That shows somebody that is willing to push their ego aside and go to battle, because that's what it is. Because you care about your family, you care about yourself, you care about your daughter that you guys just had. It's like, that's the strength. You never give up. You falter by not saying anything, and then eventually the worst case scenario usually happens when you're silent.
But there's such freedom that happens when you open up and you start talking about it. So I work for a company that's international, and I've started talking to part of my own recovery is I'm like, how do I what was this part that I play in giving back? And I've worked in HR for 10 years, decade. And I started searching, and I found in the U.S. and where we're leading within this is recovery-friendly workplaces. And so I've started integrating it into my company of like, how do we think differently about this? How do we support people, and how do we support their loved ones? And so we're international. And so I've been starting to talk to some of my colleagues, and I've shared my story. And, I've talked with people in Australia. I've talked with people in Ireland, in the UK, in Dubai, in Mexico. I've talked with people all over the world. And as soon as I share my story, they're like, yeah, I struggle too. I'm either in recovery, or, a loved one of mine is. It's like the moment you open up, it allows everyone else to open up too. And there's this like, I'm not carrying the weight on my shoulders anymore. Like we're all carrying this together, and that's okay. There's such freedom in talking about it. And I wish that, and I hope that in the future we continue, as a society to open up and talk about it more, so we can lift that burden from everyone. I'm tired of carrying that weight.
Sure. It's heavy.
It's overwhelming. Yeah.
I mean, good for you to have the courage to not only try to implement, and not try, you are implementing it into your workplace, but then what made you go on social media and put together a viral video that clearly got consumed by a ton of people, were able to relate on some degree? What made you all of a sudden say, you know what, I'm going to take this to social media and put this out there. I'm going to stop being quiet. I'm going out.
Yeah, because if you look on my, like, I'm voluntarily inept when it comes to social media. Like I'm very good at like consuming it, but I don't really participate a whole lot. When I put that up, I'm embarrassed to tell you how long that it took me to be like, is this how you do it?
Oh no, trust me, we get it. No, we get it.
Yeah. Okay. So that makes me feel better.
Yeah.
So I've been voluntarily inept in it, but you know what it started with is in the middle of a relapse. This was a relatively recent relapse, and it was a point where we both had built our programs, and we had this great community around us. And so when this happened, it felt different. I was like, you know, every other relapse is like, oh my gosh, like the world is ending, and how do I respond? And I have all of these emotions, and I can't keep them in. And this was the first time where I was like, okay, I need to show up the way that, not necessarily that he needs me to, but the way that I want to. I'm going to show up for him the way that I want to. So I'm going to take a deep breath. You know, we're going to handle this initial chaos, and then I'm going to go from there. And so I helped my husband, and then I reached out to my community for the first time. I reached out and I was like, this happened. And it wasn't like this sirens going off, like we got to call, you know, the treatment centers, we got to do all of this stuff. It's like, all right, what's next? You know this. This is not something that we have to figure out for you. And they showed up for me the way that I needed them to, and they showed up for my husband the way he needed them to, which was very different things. And at the end of the day, and don't get me wrong, I totally fell apart as well. It was just in the right form. Yeah. I allowed myself to fall.
You weren't self-destructing, causing ultimate more chaos. You were going through the proper emotional channels and things to do to manage it at best possible.
Yeah, and giving myself grace.
Totally.
That I'm okay to feel these feelings.
Yes.
I'm not going to get stuck in them.
Right.
But I'm not going to feel them. And it was like halfway through that day, I'd reached out. You know, my husband was doing okay at that point in time. And I sat down at my desk and I was like, how do I feel grateful and at peace right now in the middle of chaos? And I know that it's because I'm still continuing to work my own recovery. And I thought, you know, when I was in the hole, when I was in the bleakest of times, it's 2 a.m., I'm doom scrolling, I'm searching for any amount of hope that I could possibly find from somebody that's like, there is hope here. There is something that, you know, there's a, I don't want to say a light at the end of the tunnel because this is a chronic lifelong disease, right? But there's hope that's coming your way. And all I could find were like these words that I didn't understand, or, and this was a couple of years ago, so there wasn't quite the movement, you know, that's happening now, but these words I didn't understand, these statistics that were terrifying. You know, these horror stories of people that had lost their loved ones, and I was like, where is the hope here? And it's a terrifying and ugly and terrible disease, so there can be not a lot of hope. So anyway, I sat down and I said, okay, I'm in the middle of it. Like, I am in it right now, and this is the time where I need to record and talk to myself from before. If I can help anybody else with this, this is how, because you have to feel those feelings in order to be able to, you know, to express and connect with somebody. So I just took the time. It just felt right. There was, you know, God was telling me this is the time where you need to write it down. And I was trying to figure out how I wanted to do it. There's a lot of letters in recovery. It's like you write a letter to yourself and a letter to your addiction and, you know, loved ones, it affects letter. And I was like, you know what? Nobody wrote a letter to me. I'm going to write a letter to me. I'm going to write a letter to me a couple of years ago and say, hey, there's hope. And he's not broken and you're not broken. And there's a way through this, and it's ugly and it's going to stay ugly. But the most beautiful thing is that you're not alone. And so I wrote it. And that was kind of the time where I was starting to learn and hear about recovery-friendly workplaces. And so I said, all right, you know what? I have a voice. I'm going to share my voice. I'm going to record this. I'm going to look at it. I'm not going to like watching myself do it, but I'm going to record it. I'm going to do it, and I'm going to put it out there. And all 50 of my followers are going to see this. It's going to be great. And they're going to be like, wow, Kourtney actually said something. It's nice to see from her. And so that's why how and why I wrote it and put it out there.
Good for you. Like, it takes a really strong individual to have the balls and the guts to not only want to first of all, seek recovery for herself, then implementation into workplace, then going out on a limb and being a voice for the people that are voiceless and are struggling but feel like they're alone. And social media, that's one of the pros. There are many cons, but there are actually many pros, and that's one of the pros because so my husband's aunt, I'm gonna actually send her this episode because she listens to my whole family. Like, you know, they're, I think, our number one fans. But
I love that. That's great.
But she was saying, you know, it would be really great if you guys could really talk more about individuals that are not addicts, that are the normies, that have to struggle and endure all of the pain and destruction because of the addict. And you're that person. Like, you are that, and you're doing it. And you breaking the stigma that it's not a form of weakness. And essentially, you being a voice is you're gonna not only help people not be stuck and addicted to the addict. They need to let that shit go, because the addict is the only one that can actually save themselves. And so to hear someone like yourself, then now it gives them hope, because wherever they are in their town, in their city, now they can start looking up places that are recovery community based. So that they can actually have it.
It's tough though. I mean, just take a look. Let's just step back for a second. Let's look
I
from
get it.
upstairs.
I know, yeah.
Let's look. 10%, 12% success rate for recovery.
I know.
At least 50 to 60% divorce in this country. You put this together, I mean, it's a tough battle. It's, you know what I mean? I mean, when you're looking down on, and I'm in, my wife is, you know what I mean? I've been here. She's been, I've been there. 17 years now. I mean, 3 kids. We're happy, but I'm just playing devil's advocate. You look on paper, statistically.
Oh, totally. You're losing.
You're losing every time. It's ending in relapse and divorce 90% of the time. So both people have to be on the same page.
That's the thing.
That's the thing.
So
both people have to be that hopeless romantic feeling and love, and really say, you know what, I'm going to do this for myself, and I'm going to improve myself on a daily basis no matter what. And let's
because it goes back to this. I'll even be even better. You brought up a perfect thing. I can't remember who we had on, but it's like you hear mostly women talking about this, like searching for the man of their dreams. I want a man this.
Yeah.
And I'm not remove addict, remove normie, just human. Okay? I'm searching for this. No. What you're going to attract is what you want.
How you are doing
How
yourself.
you are to yourself.
Yes. Yep.
So if you want something in somebody else, you better be sure that you have all of those things going on within yourself. Meaning, say, a security, peaceful, like all of the things that we look
whatever
for.
it is.
But you're telling the hard truth, and I love that. But then it comes down to this. How bad do these individuals, if they're married, or even if they're not, okay? I'll speak as an individual. How bad do you want it? Do you want to live and die? Which one? Or do you want to be in pain and suffering forever? So it's right on line with what you say all the time. It's like, stop being a victim, stop being a pussy, and put in the work for yourself. Because no one is coming to save you.
Nobody.
No one is going to come and be like, you know what, Kourtney, you're an amazing woman. You're an amazing wife.
Here's $10 million in happiness.
Yeah.
Whenever you're sad, just call me.
You're right.
I got
I'll drop
you.
some fairy dust on you.
Everything. Let me.
Yeah. Non-existent.
It's not.
It's not.
But so that's why
That's not saying we don't need God.
No.
We need
Absolutely.
God.
It's because
God's a big part, you know.
No.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is you have to dig in that inner dog
100%.
and go
To
and
get
have
God.
to. Yes.
That's where God is. God is in the work.
Yeah.
God
Boom!
is in the work.
Thank you. God is in the work. You have to seek, which is the program.
Yeah.
And I do believe every individual, whether you are an addict or not, because I don't feel like there's one type of way to do any type of thing in our life. However, usually the pillars that you had spoke earlier, like basically the God, whether it's church or meditation or some type of quiet time,
food,
exercise, movement, sunlight, all of those types of things, they're really universal. and they're like the only one that people can talk kind of like about is God. But honestly, it's like, as long as you don't think you're running the show, that's all that matters. So to me, having someone like yourself onto our podcast is so important and so powerful, because you guys need somewhere to go. You guys need that hope. You need that glimmer of light to hold on to, because you're all right. You're in the game. You're everything. It's going to be ugly, and it's going to be a fight, but you're worth it, and it's okay. Yeah. You just have to be able to put one foot in front of the other and really show up for yourself, because ultimately how you're approaching your own recovery somehow usually will trickle into what is happening now, from what I just noticed from just the way that your interactions with you and your husband. You know what I'm saying? Is because attraction, like the program says, attraction rather than promotion. We're humans. We feed off of one another. Yeah. If I see, what do we do all the time? Yo, did you hit the gym this morning?
Yeah.
Yo, did you pray this morning? Yeah. Like, it's accountability, that not necessarily like you need to be self-disciplined, but he sees you doing something and it's going to make him work harder too. It's easy for humans to say, fuck it, they're not doing it. Nah. But then if you see someone out there on the grind, on the hustle, especially when it comes to like the mental, the emotional, the inner work, the writings. Oh God, there's so much writing.
You know, you're bringing me to these thoughts now. Like, should you bring pain onto people at an early age on purpose?
Yeah.
Because that pain is
you need discomfort.
So here's the thing, though.
So that you don't break.
Say if you have a normal person who thinks they're normal, let's just call it normal. They don't drink, they don't do drugs. Well, they do. Okay. They're not whatever.
Sure.
And
they don't cause destruction.
And they think they're happy. But that sense of happiness could be like a 6, 7 out of 10. Where if they actually picked up a book and had a program, that happiness would elevate to an 8 out of 10 or a 9 out of 10. They don't know
what they're capable of.
What they're capable of, because they're not putting that effort in. They're satisfied. They're drinking on the weekends. They're okay. They're living life. There's no real problems. But you know what I'm saying? They don't know what they're missing without the program.
And part of that, I mean, is that stigma. It comes down to, like, and I hate this term, but it's like that's fluffy.
Yeah.
That is not fluffy.
No.
Like, just as you're going to take care of your physical health, you have to take care of your mental health.
You really do.
And if you're not taking care of your mental health, good luck with your physical health too.
It's so weird, because I did used to think that, like, my thoughts used to think like fluffiness, weak ass person. That's what would enter my head. But now, considering, like, which is hilarious that now I'm totally on the other end of the spectrum, where, you know, working on those things, whether it's breath work, meditation, you're doing the inner things for yourself to make you a stronger human being.
Yeah.
Where now I know I'm a motherfucking savage, because no one can break me. Because I'm the individual that can break me. Nobody can. Meaning, when you get that call of something horrific happening, or you get a bill all of a sudden and you're like, what? I'm speaking of Texas, because I live in Texas. I just got an AC bill. And I'm like, wait, what? We have to get a new one? What? And you need an AC to survive, or else you're dying.
Yeah. Right.
When you get it, you don't crumble. You do not, you might have your emotional moments, because I do, but you give yourself that grace of like, okay, I'm going to be in my feelings for, whatever, 24 hours or something like that. Then you move. Then you do something. Then there's a solution. So you saying about the comfort thing, yeah. I kind of am with you on it, because sometimes big things like this to you, obviously you're a strong woman and you come from a strong family, because this hit you like a bag of rocks essentially, and you didn't falter. You stayed saddled up and started digging and doing some work.
Oh, I totally faltered, but I got back up afterwards.
Yeah,
I totally crumbled.
But that means that you have struggled in your earlier life. So you have learned that we fall down and we get back up. No?
Yes.
Aren't you saying that younger kids?
I'm agreeing with you. I'm agreeing with what you're saying 100%. But now all of a sudden I'm thinking, like, is that just a form of weakness a little bit, and then you get stronger? Are you scared to leave? Are you so scared to lose something that you choose to change instead of losing the loved one? So is there a little bit of fear in there as well? Like I get what you're saying. You know what I'm saying? Like, is there a little bit of, I'm scared. I don't want to be alone. It took me so long to find a wife, and I have a kid. Oh my goodness. I can't stray from the path. I'm going to work my little tail off to make this better, which there's nothing wrong with that. Whatever it takes to get to that point. So you have to have a little bit of that in you also. You know what I mean? Because if you didn't care about the person, or you're all tough and you're saying, oh, well, I could leave, I could do this again, I could have another kid. Women are a dime a dozen. Are you kidding me? Shit. You know what I'm trying to say, or no?
I think I do. To a degree. Are you saying that in the sense of being already married?
Yeah, or being
Okay.
being married, or it's easier to stay if you're married, but if you're even just in a relationship like a boyfriend and girlfriend, I mean, you gotta really love that person, or let's take love out of it, and let's say you gotta be scared to leave.
Okay, so you're talking about the individual that's in fear because, say, they feel financially stuck to that individual, so they're like, oh, I'm going to just stay here?
Stuck, love, there's something, you know what I mean?
Well, I think there's a lot to unpack there.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack.
Because it comes that's on an individual. In the sense of that individual that feels that type of fear has always felt that type of fear in their relationships. So I don't think that will change unless they succumb to that own personal unpacking.
Yes.
And there's going to be people that are okay and being in a dysfunctional relationship, and you know what, my hat's off to you. That's not for me.
Yeah.
And so it's like, this is only to individuals that are not happy with their current state of where they are, and that their individual is that they love, it has the disease, and they don't know what to do with that, and that they are not alone.
They're not alone.
But sometimes there's going to be times where you're in a relationship and it doesn't work out because you have to there has to be boundaries in a marriage as well.
100%.
Like her husband can't continue to think like he can continuously do the same turmoil and think she's just going to like sit there and be cool with it.
No, I agree.
You know, and everybody has a different point in their
breaking
life.
point, a threshold. Yeah. So what I'm saying is this, in my hometown, there was a guy. He was married 2, 3 years, 4 years, whatever. She got lupus or some debilitating disease. Again, statistically, no good. Listen, he dropped her off at the parents' house. He said, listen, I love her. I've been with her for 2 years. I've known her for 5. I love her. But I'm not going to deal with this. I can't.
Well, then she picked the wrong dude.
She picked the wrong
dude. Because you know what? I'll tell you this.
Yeah.
My mom and dad are
never do that.
No, I'll tell you, went to Vietnam.
Yeah.
He's had
all right.
cancer since I was 15, colon cancer, multiple heart attacks, put a stent in his heart. My mom picks him up 3 times a week now. I mean, the dude's Italian stallion. He has like 9 lives. Monday, Wednesday, Friday to dialysis, calls the VA, calls all the appointments and everything because that's her ride or die. Yeah. That is who she loves, and that is the power of partnership.
All right.
So it comes to individuals.
It comes down.
Know?
Yeah, I do
and it
know.
comes to who you pick in life.
You're right.
And how much do you want to be with that person?
Yeah.
It ultimately comes down to you.
Yeah.
And me. Like, you are an individual. You have the choice. So you and your husband, in this case, you guys are married. You have a child. You guys have your personal conversations, and you're doing your work because you have your boundaries. So that way, when things do get to a certain point, then that's possibly where you have those types of conversations, because by me just meeting you, you're not going to put your daughter in those types of situations that are not good or unhealthy. So it's like every situation is going to be different for every single individual. I think it really comes down to whoever is with the addict or the alcoholic to know that they aren't alone and they can too recover, because it is possible and there is a solution. Yeah. And it ultimately comes to that individual having to just work through that turmoil on themselves first. And because it's doing something to you, not only is it giving you the self-confidence, it's giving you the courage to speak about a topic that it was disrupting your life. It was disrupting your marriage. Like, people don't want to talk about that, especially women, because we like to pretend that everything at home is all good and the kids are great, my husband's fine, everything is good, I'm over here, No, it's like, no, there's battle here. But you don't have to feel so consumed and think that you are. I feel like women, especially with like say an addict, is like you can't fix him, which is totally true. You can't. You have to fix yourself.
I'm going to challenge your thought here though for a second, because and I'm not going to say anything different about other diseases because I don't know enough about them. But we're at a point in time where addiction hits everyone. You can't walk into it. I mean, what 1 in 10 people struggle with the use disorder. 2 out of 3 Americans are touched by it. Like, this is something that affects all of us, right? Yes. And so I think that way of thinking actually is a little bit of a problem. And I say that because it goes to this is a you problem, not a me problem. This is an us problem. We are all affected by it. This is an 100%, us problem now.
100%.
And so we can walk away from that one person, but good luck, you're going to find another one.
And you're the problem. That's why I'm saying it comes down to us being challenging and changing and doing. That's why I always think that everybody would benefit from a program.
That's why do we bring pain to the kids early? Do we bring pain purposely? Is this what we have to do? Or we coddle them now?
I don't think
Is it a point of coddling this generation? Are we coddling? I'm a coddler. I'm not going to lie. I have 3 children. I don't treat them like my mom treated me. I don't treat them tough like that. I don't coddle them. My son is 15 and a half. He's never been in a fight. But by the time I was 15, I had been in 20 scraps. I'd had 10 black eyes, a broken nose already. Been run, been chased after.
That's a different type of uncomfortable though. Like, cause I'm right there too. This needs to be an emotional pain because that's way different than like I've had surgeries. I've broken my legs, my arms.
Emotional pain. Okay, I get it.
Where like this is like you have to be mentally tough.
Yeah.
Because what I see with the youth is mentally weak. Because if it doesn't go my way, I'm hitting the highway and I'm on to the next.
I agree.
No, that's destruction. That is not good. That is where you're talking about your friend that left his wife. That is a weak man to me. That is a weak individual because he's now basically it's her problem and now he has to like rearrange his to-do list. Right. When it's like, no. First of all, marriage is dope. That conversation needs to be talked more about because we're at 50% divorce. When you get married, marriage is serious. You need to be very particular on what individual you want to go and do this partnership with, because yes, we talk about like, oh, just get a divorce. No, you're supposed to like ride or die for your wife.
Supposed to be.
And obviously we have situations that come up that are out of our control and that thankfully you're able to get a divorce. And I'm not talking about those situations.
Yeah, no, let's not talk about those, because here's the thing. If you live your life properly and you put security measures in place in your life, and I really mean security measures. I have.
Well, it's also going back to the divorce thing. It's usually always by one individual. I'm talking about 100%. Domestic violence. 100%. What happens? It's an individual causing destruction. An addict or an alcoholic, an individual causing destruction.
Yes.
So if you want to be a peaceful, solid, well-rounded human, you got to work a recovery program.
You got to. Or a program.
Because what it does, it takes away the you
Makes
problem
us unified.
And it just work on you so that you can show
we're a
up.
Community. It doesn't have to be you're married. You're actually a part of a community. Forget the marriage.
Yeah.
You have a neighbor, you have a mother, you have a father, you have a brother, you have a sister, you have friends. You're part of that community. Yeah.
I think with kids, though, it's not about exposing them to more pain. I think it's more about stopping to shield them from the truth.
Yeah.
At
like
the
There's
right
enough pain. You're
time.
Right.
Yeah, because with my daughter, we bring her with us to free. She comes with us every Saturday. Everybody knows her. She's there, and we expose her to the reality of Daddy's sick. That's the truth. That, we're not going to sit here and be like, Daddy has all of these problems. Daddy's sick. Daddy has a disease. However, Daddy is working on it, and Mommy and Daddy are fighting this together. And you could be a part of it too. Let's learn a little bit about it. So
Unity.
I think I think it's about exposing them to the truth and exposing them to the right amount of truth. When there was a time where I reached out to our pastor and I was like, how would you talk to Kennedy about this? She's 3. And he's like, I would just tell her, Daddy's having a rough time today. He's not feeling very good. All right, that's true. But Daddy's going to get better. and we still have the hope that daddy can
Yeah.
get better, because we may not be the problem,
Yeah.
Kennedy and I are the
Yeah.
problem,
Yeah.
but we can be part of the solution. We can help. We're not helpless.
Oh, I love that.
I agree.
I love that.
I agree.
Like, you are super important. You need to keep using your voice on your platform, in your workforce, because it's really difficult I see a lot of married couples that have one individual that is causing the problem initially, and they don't know what to do, because they just kind of get stuck, I think. And I think they just get kind of stuck in the consumption of the destruction of the other person, that it's hard to even really self-realize, like, wait, I need to work on, I need to work on myself. It just doesn't kind of like compute and add up right.
No, and where do you start? I don't think that comes from a lack of wanting. I think loved ones want to help. Unfortunately, we often want to help too much, and we try to take over, and we can try to control it, but I don't think it comes from lack of wanting. It's just that this is not black and white. This is not we all live somewhere in the gray here.
Yeah.
And for where I started is going to be different than where somebody else started, because that's what my brain could comprehend at the time. It's something that's so challenging to accept and to understand. It's an illogical disease. It is not logical. But our brain craves logic, right?
I know.
I'm totally I want the facts and I want the truth.
That's hilarious. She's Jonathan, because
I want to understand.
I call him logical and like wanting to understand, like very much, huh? And the disease is not.
We want to be a resource for you, for your company, where you're working, you're in human resources. We want to be a resource. If you ever get to the point where you have, there's a meeting, a corporate meeting, and you need someone to come talk or speak and into a group, the three of us would be more than, Chad's not here, but the three of us would be more than welcome to
however we can be of service to you, to really help you also spread your story, your message, and your community. We want to be a part of in any capacity whatsoever, because 100%. It is really important, and it's a need right now. It's breaking the stigma on both levels, from people getting treatment on the addiction side and alcoholic side, and then also as well as on your side, where you're not necessarily the substance abuser or that type of addict, but you are addicted to the addict, which causes turmoil too. And those individuals need to have the hope, and to know that they might be in the depths of hell right now, but you can slowly crawl your way out also. And it's just going to be a little bit of a fight, but I like the light at the end of the tunnel, like you use. I know that it is a constant one, but that light is constantly shining, that you're constantly chasing. And that's like the point, So,
really, worst case scenario, you're a better person for the next guy.
100%.
Worst case scenario.
100%.
You've improved your life. Now your picker's better. Everything is better.
Everything is better
life.
because you're building the self-confidence to not put up with nonsense.
Yes, exactly.
And we're like, it's so hard to put in actual words of what it does, but you're exactly right.
Yeah.
So you're not so self-reliant on others to make you feel good. You are in control of all of those things that we all crave.
Yeah.
The feeling of being happy and good and all this stuff is that it's not going.
It's all internal.
Yeah.
It's
and
all
it's not going to break you. And then you are going to be a better individual
100%.
if things don't work out and you're able to then, seek another relationship. Yeah. You ultimately are just bettering yourself.
That's the goal of everyone's life, is to steadily progress your own.
Well, it trickles, which then you're able to be a better mom.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And that ultimately, to me, that's the next generation. If anything, I want everybody to work a program, because it helps trickle into how you raise your child, which then is like the full, that's how we keep America
going.
Yeah.
What is the harm? What is the harm in working a program? There's only good that can come from it.
There's no side effects.
There's no
Except
side effects.
all of a sudden the side effects are, I'm actually
feeling better.
Well, no, it's actually, I'm like a shitty person. I need to get my shit together.
That is true.
Right.
Yeah.
That's it. People don't want to look at the hard truth. That's why I love what you said about your daughter too, is because nowadays everybody wants to shield their kid from, like, these are the facts of the life. Like, life is hard.
Mm-hmm.
There's really bad apples out there, shitty people. There's bless you. There's really great ones. Like you can't put a blinder over the truth. The truth is the truth. That's it. It's just obviously you're smart. You called your pastor on how do I deliver this kind of situation. You know what I'm saying?
I'm not going to try not.
Yeah,
to
exactly.
I'm sure I do plenty of trauma to her, but I'm not going to intentionally do it.
No, for sure. So, yeah. Congratulations on you having that inner strength and whatever we can do to help and spread your message as well as assist in any capacity of, I love Colorado, so I want to roll out to one of the meetings anyways, just because we would love to and wish you guys literally, I don't want to say success. What do you say to?
A good life. Just a good life. I wish you a good life. Nothing wrong with that.
Peace.
I like that.
Yeah.
Good life and peace.
Good life and peace.
Well,
I love that.
Yeah, thanks for coming in. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, really appreciate
you. Yeah, it was really nice.
Yeah, you're really
nice.
Incredible woman.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm very blessed that I have my husband. I mean, he's an amazing person.
Of course.
I couldn't do this
Of
without
course.
him and his support. I'm so thankful, but I'm really humbled to be here and really honored. You're doing great work, and I love listening to the podcast myself. So
Yeah.
thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.